So when it comes to building, again, what we're going to do today is building the brand. We're going to build a new page in Sitecore. We're going to add renderings to this page. We're going to customize those renderings for look and feel. We're going to add some real content, set up our marketing control panel. We're going to see how much time we can get through. Again, we're going to do this over 2 sessions. In our next session, post that, we're going to run the business. We're going to integrate the Shopify Buy SDK. We're going to configure the marketing control panel where it gives us, marketing language and taxonomy to register goals like clicking on add to cart button, goals such as interested in a Bic pen versus a block pen. We're going to enable marketing automation so that as people are taking these actions that I'm communicating back with them via email experience manager, or if you're not using EXM, you can use like something like a MailChimp or a third-party mailer, Marketo, Pardot, whatever's in your ecosystem. And then we're going to activate personalization rules. Again, we talked about geo-IP location, driving personalization based on that, personalization based on behaviors. And then the last thing we're going to do is running the business is we're going to assume with this new product launch, we can't do it all on our own. There's no such thing as, if you build it, they will come. So what we're going to do is create some partnerships with some distribution partners or third-party websites. And we're going to use Federated Experience Manager of, a product of Sitecore, to be able to insert not only components to a third-party website, but to capture data from that third-party website and to pull it into our ecosystem. So without further ado, let's start jumping in and building. Again, feel free to pop any question up at any point in time if something needs to be a little bit more clarity. This is the Sitecore Experience Platform 9.2. Depending on your implementation, your role or permission within the organization, your screen here may look very different. I'm an admin, a part of this solution here, so I have access to all the marketing applications, all the content editing and access management applications. So your view may be limited based on your role within your organization. We're going to go start with content editor over here to start to build our experience. The one step, I tried to make sure that nothing was built before we actually do this live. So, excuse if we run into some errors here or there, we'll get through them. But the only thing I did was create this little new node called Pen Club within my ecosystem here. This is our Icreon Tech website. And I'm going to go to Experience Editor, publish Experience Editor over here to actually visually look at this page. And in similar fashion to my little PowerPoint schematic, what we're looking at here is this placeholder and nothing else on this page. So let's start to build here. And I'm going to go to Insert and Add New Component. And what you'll notice is I've got these 4 or 5 renderings, right? These are renderings. And what you'll notice, again, depending on your implementation, this is a custom Sitecore solution. This is not using SXA, Sitecore Experience Accelerator. I didn't configure the Sitecore toolbox, which is really this box, this dialog box sitting on your right-hand side that I can, drag and drop predefined components onto a page. So it might look slightly different, but what a challenge I'm seeing here is that the homepage that my developers built for me was per the design spec that came from our creative director and our designers. And so I have only access to 5 potential renderings here, and nothing here is striking me, fancying me in terms of putting on my new product launch here. So what I wanted to go ahead and do is actually fix this up a little bit. And what we're going to do is go to our layout. And in my content editor here, again, seeing the ability to see, view, layout, media library, system, templates, that's going to be heavily defined by your role within the organization. If you don't see that, that's likely because of a permissions issue. Just reach out to your partner or reach out to your internal team to get access to these kind of sections here if you want to play with them. In terms of placeholder settings, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my home section. And what you'll notice here is that I have the 5 allowed controls, those same 5 that I saw when I tried to add my renderings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what I'm going to do is say I want to edit these allowed controls. I'm going to go to my rendering section here. And you can see that we have part of our Sitecore implementation. We try to whenever we're doing a Sitecore implementation, we want to build as many components as possible to be make them reusable, to build a very flexible experience for content management teams. So there's probably about 75 different components that exist within this experience here. So you can see I added this banner here. I'm going to save. And now you can see that I have my banner option, right? So we just, within 3 minutes, gave you more control over your platform. I took a rendering that didn't exist on my homepage, or let's just say it's any page in your ecosystem. And now I have access to this rendering. So I'm going to add the rendering. And then what I'm going to do is ensure that it has content. So this is my rendering. I'm just going to show you what's happening. The reason that you're not seeing anything on the page when I added this rendering is when I go in my details of my page and look at my final layout, I can see my banner. That's the banner rendering that I added. You can see that there's no data here. So we have to define a data source. And so within my pen club here, I'm going to create new content. We'll just call it banner. All right, and we can see some text happening here. Now, depending on who you are, how you like to work, you can work within Experience Editor, best pen club in the world. I will do a free trial. Now, what you'll notice is that my rendering that you see, it's got this back to services thing happening here with a little animation. This is not going to be the greatest rendering to use. So what I want to do is I'm going to have to change some of this look and feel of this rendering. And we're going to do that right after we add a couple new components to the page. Because what I want is have a nice hero image. I don't need this back button that the developers added. I do want my headline here, and I do like this little mechanism with this call to action here. So we're going to do some editing of that rendering. And this is where a lot of the power comes to marketers. So I would assume, my assumption is some of you guys, used to have MySpace pages, know a little CSS. Most CSS syntax is easily found on the internet. How to change a background color. And so every rendering that exists has, its own template. It has a path of its view. So this is that, HTML file of what is contained in this banner. Now that back to services, button that I showed before, I don't want, I could call on my developer and say, hey, can you make me a new rendering without that back to services button? but that takes engineering effort. We talked about how we don't want to have engineering effort. As you scroll down, a couple of important areas is going to be this asset section. So this is where it's going to give you a lot of power for the platform, an area that should be used by you guys if you need to make some edits to your rendering. And an area that needs to be configured within your implementation now. So if you remember from my default view, default layout, we have our foundation assets, models, and services available to us. So that allows me to use this assets section. Otherwise, you can put whatever you want in here and it's not actually going to work. And you can see 4 different fields: JavaScript assets, JavaScript inline, CSS assets, CSS inline. So, in theory, with CSS assets, this is me telling the system that I actually want you to reference a completely different CSS file and use that to render this display. CSS inline is basically as you're rendering this rendering. Sorry, as the system is starting to render the rendering, execute this CSS inline. So, of course, I did some of this already. So I'm going to show you this banner here, which is the exact same rendering. And the process that went into this is I just duplicated, right-click, duplicate this rendering, and I renamed it something else called Banner Pen Club. As you can see across this implementation of our own, there's a bunch of things, -Steve is because even on our own platform, I wanted to customize some of the look and feel of what our developers and designers put together. And you can see a bunch of CSS here, right? So we're not going to define exactly what the CSS is doing, but I'm forcing a background image into the rendering, removing some of the displays. So this hero back to careers right here is that back to the careers display that I'm saying don't show it. I am changing some of the colors, the border colors, the letter spacings, and changing the look and feel of that animation. So if I go back to my presentation here, into my final layout, and go to that banner, I'm going to change this rendering from the banner that the developers gave me to Banner Pen Club. And there we go. So you can see instantly it's capturing that CSS. If I was to publish this page, it would obviously show this on our CD server. But this is the color that I added. I changed this to black. This is just the image that I'm forcing. My free trial, and what I did here was, this was black, and I changed the arrow and the circle and the animation to be white. So this is showing you how you can customize one of your renderings, and you could do this pretty much with any view rendering. Some of the control renderings may have more issues with the CSS assets. And then let's continue. So again, I go to add a new component. I have this video banner that we don't need, this text here, this digital innovation text, a home slider, this partner section. I don't really have something that I want to use. Maybe we'll use the digital innovation just to call out, the #1 membership for pens. Great. So let's edit this content. So you can see that this digital innovation is associated with the Pen Club. The reason that nothing again is showing is that we have to make sure that there's content, that there's data behind it. So we'll go over here because I like to work out of the content editor sometimes, it's just easier. Here's my digital innovation, and as I open this up and Sitecore shows it, it's going to be empty. So let's show him a message here. The best pen to get your very new pen delivered to your door each and every month. Great. So here's our text. We can see this little circle animation. That's going to be a call to action link to maybe start a free trial. But before, we're going to have to build a page for that to link to, like a product page. So we'll get to that. Now, again, on this digital innovation rendering, if I go look at where that exists in my system, a couple ways you can find a rendering. Here it is digital innovation. And again, you can see the rendering will have a CSS inline area within the assets section. If I go to my digital innovation Steve version, which is actually the CSS that is being used on our Icreon.com website, you can see that there's a bunch of CSS that has been applied. But again, you can make those edits, and it's very powerful because like what's happening here is I'm actually making changes to the responsive look and feel of the site. And so there's a lot of creativity that you can drive through there without really, core development or .NET engineering skills per se. Great. So what we're going to do now is build some internal pages real quick. So this is my Pen Club node. I'm going to insert something else under here. Depending on your implementation, when you go to insert an item, you get to your template section. Just to review some of these concepts, the idea of a branch within Sitecore is a predefined template that is already pre-configured for you. It has all your components on it, your renderings, and you can build your own branches. Like once we build this Pen Club membership, maybe as this microsite version, and we want to launch a new membership for notebooks, the Notebook Club, we would be able to actually build a branch from our page here and easily make it so that I can just duplicate that same exact experience. What we're going to do here is actually insert a new page. I'm going to go to my page types. You probably have page types defined. So, my Pen Club is a home page type. I have all these different page types that are defined as templates. Let's just go with the newsletter page type. We're going to call this product page. Or we'll call it pen page. Great. And then we're going to go insert. Great. So we have this link now. You can see it says view products on my hover there. And that will link to my product page. A couple interesting things that you should know when thinking about like actually tracking. So what I did here is I used the relative Sitecore link because if I change the name of this pen page to let's just rename this real quick. Maybe one of our content editors on our team go and say, pen page 1 for whatever reason. That relative link like that, this is going to remain intact, right? So you can see that this is automatically still pen page 1. But a couple of really powerful things you can do with some of your links. Let me show you an example. You see this relative link sitting up here. There's a couple like if I go www.icreon.com / put in that relative URL and then do something like !Sitecore _TRK equals click through. what that is actually doing, this little extension, kind of think about like as a marketer, you have UTM codes that you use with Google Analytics or your campaigns out there. What this is actually doing is triggering a goal within the Sitecore ecosystem. So when we say running the brand in our next session, we start configuring all our digital goals that are going to empower this product launch with all this data and behavioral data. This is a mechanism to do that. Pro and con is I'm breaking that relative URL. So if I put this specific URL with the Sitecore track link, and someone goes and changes that name, like my link is obviously going to be thus broken, right? Because when I go insert this is the exact link that I'm looking for. And so in typical fashion, it's good to use the Sitecore linkage so that we don't lose any link. Good news is Sitecore has broken link reports that would show us that if something broke. All right. Perfect. So we have a page, we have some text, and we're going to go to our view products section here. Let's go look at this page right here. This is our newsletter page, a newsletter page type. And just to show the difference of what I mean by page, the page type or inserting this template versus a branch template. So I inserted a newsletter page type and I just have a blank placeholder here. I'm going to go to this newsletter section that the developers configured for me. And if I go to right click, insert newsletter, you can see this little 3 dots right here that indicates that it's a branch template. Example. So what this is going to do is it's going to not only lay out the page for me, but it's also going to lay out all my data sources, all my content that is necessary, and even indicate placeholder content so that it's easy for a content editor just to open up the screen and just start running through the page and editing new pages. So if I open up this folder here, you'll see that I have this data source. It has all these components that sit in it. And if I go to the experience editor, everything is defined already for me. I got this page, I got some text, example content. So as a content editor, I can just go in here and now edit everything. As a marketer, like if you want to build some scalability or automation within your, for your team, the ability to do something like we just did here, build a page and generate your own branch template. So if I want to get this exact same look and feel and be able to give someone the ability just to right click, duplicate, right click, right click, insert, and automatically have this, like you have control over that. And then that's what a branch template is going to be used for, and that's some major differences. So we're going to look back at our append page here. When I go to add, I'm using that newsletter type. So you can see, again, I have different renderings. And you'll see, obviously it makes sense that these are the exact same renderings that we saw in our branch template. For now, we're just going to add a title and description. This is going to be our product description. All right. So we have a basic bare bones experience happening here. I've got a page for my pen club. I've got some headlines. We'll probably put a rendering underneath that showcases maybe 3 products or 3. I'm going to start to use content as a way to segment individuals. So put a high-end product with a low-end products, so I can see if someone's interested more on the high-end side versus the low-end side, so I can bring that into my inputs here, and then we're gonna have our product page. So I know we're running out of time here, and what I'm gonna do leading up to our next session is kind of just define this a little bit more. You know, I'll do some CSS. I don't like how this text is running off like this. But before we go, let's go ahead and just publish our experience real quick. And what we'll do in our next session is also talk about, you know, multilingual, really want to showcase to this community, like how you can really mobilize your data and drive these different experiences based on, you know, ethnicity, based on behavioral data, based on location. So if we now go over to our URL, perfect. So you can see we still have the Icreon branding. I still have my header, right? Because that was the default layout that we talked about. So we want to be able to customize that. I have this get your own, view products. I click on that. It goes to my pen page one. But I don't like the Icreon branding, of course. Well, I love the Icreon branding, but I don't like it for my pen club. I don't like the footer here. So we want to be able to customize those things as well. Because those sit in our default layout, it's not like I can drag and drop those components. So what you have to understand is in the presentation section, in our details, I have in my final layout, you have those components, navbar menu, my header, you have my footer, the footer right, footer bottom. And similar to how I was going into my pen club here and looking at the data source, if I go to my menu of links here, you can see it says Sitecore, content, Icreon tech, or global folder, links, header menu. So if I go to browse this real quick, I have this section here called header menu that has my who we are, services, clients. So what I could do is just create a new link section and change that data source up, which I will do while we are on our hiatus between our next week's session. And we'll review those changes, but the goal is when I come back to this page, I'm gonna want my Pen Club logo. I want a completely separate nav bar. I'll still keep the translation component here in the UK or India, maybe add a couple new languages. Customize my footer here and build more of an actual microsite experience that exists on top of this Icreon.com website. Now, of course, if we were actually going to launch this as a whole new brand, I would want to build actual multi-site tenant so that Pen Club sits on its own CD server. So, you know, Icreon and Pen Club are completely separate entities. But just for this demo purposes, I kept it within the same umbrella of Icreon.